We're going to talk about a couple things today. We're building a guitar, and we're talking about how much it costs to build guitars. How's it going? My name is Dylan. This is Dylan Talks Tone. You know we talk about guitars here. So today, we're going to talk about one of those things, and I see it in my comments on YouTube all the time. Well, why are guitars so expensive? Gibson can build a Les Paul for 300 bucks. That's always the number, 300-400 bucks, right? Like everybody thinks you can build a guitar for 300-400 bucks. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna look at a couple of different things. One, we're gonna look at how we build guitars here and what it costs us to build a guitar. Now we only build 20 to 30 guitars a year, depending on the year. We'll probably build 30 this year. So our stuff is pretty exclusive. It's a lot lower volume. However, translates to the higher volume builders that we buy at the store in certain ways. And you may not think so, but let's talk about it. We're gonna use, for our example, we're gonna use our Inspire series guitar, which is our lowest price entry into custom guitar world. So basically, there's more limited options, but you're able to get a guitar that's custom built for you, and we build it one at a time for you, okay? So let's talk about how much stuff costs, right? So if you were to go to StewMac or All Parts or any of the other big guitar parts houses on the internet, we're gonna use those prices for what's available to you, because bottom line is, if everybody could build a guitar for $300 or $400, everybody would do it, right? So let's get into it. Neck. Now, a good neck, not a foreign one that you can get on eBay for $35, but a really good neck on the caliber of an off-the-shelf guitar like a Fender, for instance. For a Fender style guitar, we'll use Fender style guitars, is gonna cost $200 at least. Musicraft, $250 by the time it ships to your house. High quality neck that the fretwork is good, that the shape is familiar. Now, a lot of people can make homemade necks out of stuff that, you know, in their shop, but is it gonna feel as familiar as a neck like this? You pick up this guitar and you're like, oh yeah, this feels good. Now, if we were to build a neck from scratch, we would be looking at, I mean, it could be $50 to $150 to $200 for the blank of wood, depending on how, and the fretboard material, depending on what you use. A fretboard could cost as much as $25, just a fretboard. The frets, while they're not very expensive, it's extremely labor intensive. So to keep a cost-effective guitar cost-effective, using a CNC machine to do it is the thing. So then when you start to look at CNC costs, setting up the programs, paying the person to do it, all that sort of stuff. And I'm not getting into handmade versus not. That's a totally different conversation. I'm talking about the economy of actually getting it done. Neck is probably one of the most expensive and time-intensive parts of the guitar. For the Inspire series, we actually purchased one that we have made for us that is to our spec that I really like, and it allows us to be able to do this at scale. That's something that we can share with everybody and keep the price, you know, like that $1149 price point on an American-made custom guitar. So necks are expensive. So body blanks, if you go to StewMac or somewhere, you might spend 150 bucks. Because I'm an OEM, I can get them for about 70, 80. I can get some of them as low as 40, 50, but then you have to paint it. You have to cut it, you have to sand it, and you have to paint it. So if you CNC it, you have to pay for CNC time, or you have to own a CNC machine. Or if you cut it by yourself, it's hours and hours and hours of labor. And when I say hours and hours, I mean days, not just a couple hours in the afternoon. You don't just take a router and do that. It's days of work, days. And we have to paint it. If we pay somebody to paint it, you're looking at $250 to $400 to paint a guitar. If you're looking at painting it yourself, you're looking at materials. Paint is not cheap. Go to Sherwin-Williams, go to Asco Nobel, go to some of the places where you can get good quality base coat, clear coat paint, or even nitro. Old nitro is very expensive because it's hard to find. It's not cheap. Those materials are not cheap. Hundreds of dollars a gallon in some cases for some colors. Let's look at our electronics. So we wind all of our own pickups in-house. And a lot of people will say, well, yeah, but the parts for that humbucker cost $35. Why do your humbuckers cost $129? These parts right here, they might cost 15 or 20 bucks. Why does it cost $89 for a single coil? For anybody who ever says that to me, I just tell them, hey, come on over. I'll give you some parts. You can sit down at my bench and I'll give you some 43 gauge wire and you tell me why it costs so much to make a pickup. In about 5 minutes, you'll understand. There's a lot that goes into it. The equipment is not cheap. The materials are not actually cheap because you have to buy them at scale. We're gonna talk about that in a moment. And then we also think about the knowledge and the time and the years that it takes to get to actually wind a pickup. It is not easy. The wire is as fine as a human hair. And then there's also pots, caps, switches, all that stuff goes into the guitar. You know, this loaded pick guard sells for $389 or something at Dylan Talks Tone. There's a lot of work and time that goes into this. So we have a $200 neck, we have a $389 pick guard. We have, what is this, about 80 bucks for a proper Clusen bridge. Not something that you buy on eBay. Now you can go buy stuff on eBay for $20, $30, but I'm talking about good stuff. So we use Clusen stuff on our Inspire series guitars and Clusen tuners on our Inspire series guitars. Flip that over, proper stuff. Then we talk about cases. What is a case? 129 bucks? It's a lot of money. The next thing you're gonna say, and I can feel you and hear you, and it's okay, yell through the internet, get in the comments and talk about it, the economy of scale. So you look at somebody like Gibson or Fender and they say, well, they say, yeah, but they buy so much stuff that it's so cheap. But here's something you gotta remember. Everybody could do that and buy that stuff at scale. We would all build guitars. I said this before. Do you know how much stuff I have to buy every year to stay at a purchasing power price point that makes it economical for me to do this? Do you know how many pounds of coil wire I have to buy a year to keep the cost down enough to make it to where I can manufacture this stuff? So we have to buy all this stuff in bulk so that we can keep our purchasing power to keep the price down. But we have to do it on speculation that we're gonna sell all that stuff. Otherwise, we're stuck with a pile of stuff. Nobody makes any money, we all lose money, and people go out of business. It happens all the time. Many companies, and I don't know specifically about Gibson, I'm just using them as an example because they've been in the news so much. Many companies, on speculation, this is how they do it. They say, well, we're gonna plan our next year of building guitars. This is how many hundreds of thousands or thousands of each model we're gonna build. And we have to go out and buy all the materials to do this, to keep it at a price point that's low. Then they have to go borrow that money. They have to finance that money. And then they have to run a business in such a way with all of the employees, all the health insurance, all the everything to make it all go. So it's not just $300 or $400, which I'm gonna tell you right now, there's more than $300 in materials in a Les Paul. And you can fight me on that, you can put it in the comments below, but I know 100% for sure, and I know why, and I'll tell you why. This pickup cover right here comes from the same factory where Gibson Custom Shop makes their pickup covers. And I know what they pay for them, and I know what I pay for them, and I know how much difference there is, and there's not that much. Because of the way we run our business and we sell to all over the world, have one of the deepest discounts in the industry for a lot of this stuff. And I will tell you, it costs more than 300 bucks to build a Les Paul in materials. Then you pile on all those other expenses, and then taking the risk of saying, I have to buy this many necks, hoping that I'm gonna sell them. I have to buy this many sets of tuners, hoping that I'm gonna sell them. I have to buy this many pounds of coil wire, hoping that I'm gonna sell them. And I have to take that risk and structure a business in such a way that it all works. Now, the person that's building one guitar at a time at home, he can do that. And he can build one at a time, but he's gonna pay more for parts, and that's gonna translate more into the cost of the guitar. So for us to be able to build an American-made guitar at $1149 that is somewhat customizable for you and your needs and the pickups that you want and everything is a feat of, it's crazy. It's crazy to be able to do it. I've worked on it for about 4 years to get to this point where we could offer a guitar at $1149. That's how it works. It costs way more money than 300 bucks for Gibson to build a Les Paul. Get in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts on this. I know that what I see and what Gibson or Fender sees is only part of the equation. I know that there are many, many other factors that go into this, but you could talk about this all day long. You could talk about the economy of scale. You could talk about tariffs, you could talk about taxes, you could talk about healthcare, you could talk about all kinds of things surrounding the cost of building a guitar. But I just wanted to share a few little aspects with you that you might not think of when we're talking about the cost of a guitar. A lot goes into it. For you to build one guitar at a time, you either pay more for the parts and charge more for the guitar, or to build tons of guitars at a time, you buy tons of material on speculation and have tons of overhead associated with that and have to charge more for the guitar. Either way, it works out to cost what it costs. Do me a favor, go to our website. I'm gonna put a link to it right here. Check out our Inspire series guitars. They start at $1149 for a Tele style, we'll say a T style, an S style, and a P bass. So check them out. There's some options, there's some fun stuff. If you see something that you want, but it's not there and you're like, I wish it was kind of like this, shoot me a message. We do full custom builds too. I'll tell you what, let's go in the comments right now. We had a pretty controversial video the last couple weeks about the capacitor stuff and some other things. So let's go in the comments below and look at some of the comments from the last couple videos and we'll talk about it just now. We'll pick a couple. Well, let's look at some comments from the last couple videos. We'll talk about this capacitor video mostly from earlier in the week. Lots of comments on that one, as you probably can imagine. Dylan, great video, but I wonder how many people roll their tone knobs and actually use the caps on their guitars. This is a question that I get and a comment I get all the time. And I say, if you're not using your tone knob, you're losing a lot of the potential that your guitar can have. So before you go changing anything, parts-wise or anything, actually just start using your knobs, your volume and your tone, and how they interact together. I think it's super, super powerful. New Gun Guy says, will you be adding more modules to your Skillshare account? So we've got that Skillshare class on soldering. My response to him was, what would you like to see on Skillshare? What would you like to specifically learn that we would make a class based around so that we could do that? Please let me know in the comments. I'm very curious to know, because we would love to do more. That was just an idea I had, but I would love to know what you would want to see specifically. And yeah, we'll produce some more content for Skillshare. I would love to do that. And then lastly, Squale Productions says, great video, Dylan, as always. I have a question or a dilemma thing. If you have the choice of capacitor and a guitar, let's say you have your dream guitar in front of you and one's got a paper and oil and the other is whatever, an orange drop, let's say, which would you pick? Honestly, I would not care, because to tell you the truth, the brand of pots and the cap and all that stuff is the last thing I check. For me personally, if I pick up a guitar and the neck feels right and it just feels like it plays good, then after that I don't care about anything, because I'll just mod it however I want. If I have my dream guitar in front of me and that is, it's down to that, then I want to know, is it a vintage guitar? I want to know whatever was in it originally, is it original for a vintage guitar? So I don't care what it is as long as it's original. If it's a new guitar, honestly, it's like I said, it's just how it feels. And after that, I'll just change it up, do whatever I want. So the electronics and the brands of the pots and what kind of caps and all that sort of stuff, it's like the lowest concern of mine on a guitar at all. I don't care about it at all. Probably even less than what color it is, even less than the kind of finish it has. I mean, less. Like, the cap is probably the last thing on my mind. So anyway, thanks for hanging out. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, little bell next to it, and let me know on this Skillshare thing, because I would love to shoot some more content for it. We'll talk to you soon.